Hello everyone and welcome. In this video, we're going to be answering the question, why was Christ abandoned in his agony? So, if we read Matthew chapter 27, where Jesus Christ was being trialed and hung, we see that no one was really on Christ's side. In fact, if you read a little bit before in Matthew chapter 26, verses 69 to 75, we see that not even Peter, who was later even an apostle, wanted to associate with Jesus Christ, which was a great contrast from Jesus Christ's days before this event, because, people would always try to flock around Jesus, as we see from John chapter 6, verse 24. But the only question is, why did everyone just abandon him at the moment he was charged? Well, one main reason for this was that people didn't exactly want to associate with someone who had now been cursed. This is because if we read Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 23, we see that anyone who was hanged on a tree was now cursed. And since Jesus Christ was now being hung, he was also cursed in the same way. And thus, the shame that one would face when they would try to associate with Jesus Christ in this time would have simply been too great, so no one bothered. Thus, even St. Peter, once again, abandoned Jesus Christ. Plus, the disciples also didn't really want to suffer. We see that Israel also abandoned God just like the disciples did once they began to suffer in the wilderness as well. We see this in Numbers chapter 11 verses 4 to 6 and in chapter 14 verses 1 to 4. So the disciples simply just followed Jesus Christ until he, began to suffer. Because, the disciples didn't really understand this whole idea of the ransom sacrifice, as we see in Matthew chapter 16, verses 22 to 23, of how Jesus Christ had to die. They weren't really able to comprehend that. So once Jesus Christ began to suffer, they just sort of, abandoned him. And plus, the disciples also would have thought that, Jesus Christ would fight for his life. And the disciples probably would have joined in on him if he did this. However, Jesus Christ decided to give in to his fate instead, so the disciples didn't really stay behind to defend him even when Jesus Christ wasn't interested, because they probably felt that Jesus Christ's cause had probably ended. Also, it is important to mention that it was also prophesied earlier in the Bible that Christ would die in the first place for the sins of humanity. This was later explained in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 12. So thus, the courage that was needed for people to fight for Jesus, even when Jesus Christ himself wasn't fighting, simply wasn't there, which allowed, God's plan to play out smoothly for the ransom sacrifice. But Jesus Christ also said, in Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 46, that he would be facing agony now. And in the later verses of this account, he stated that there are people who forsook him, just like they did on earth, and there were also those people who helped him in his agony. And we also see something similar in Revelation chapter 12, verses 13 to 17, where he was represented as a woman who was, banished to the wilderness and needed to be nourished. But what is this agony exactly? Well, the agony Christ is in refers to the persecution and removal that we see spirituality facing in our current time. And Jesus Christ also told us the reason for this in Matthew chapter 24, verse 12, where it says that iniquity will abound. And as we see, people no longer rely on spirituality to live their lives anymore. And instead, people would rather believe in the works of their own hands and rely on the things that they create. And in Revelation chapter 13, we also see that instead of people continuing to believe in God, they would start to wander after this beast. However, what Jesus Christ is telling us in Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 46, is that we as Christians should strive to be a part of the group that was giving clothes and giving water to the underprivileged Christ. We're not physically giving Christ food, clothes, and water, but instead we help Christ, and God by extension, by continuing to serve God and defending spirituality. This was compared to giving a cup of cold water to a person who needs it in Matthew chapter 10, verse 42. This verse reads, "And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily, verily, I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward." Thus, even though spirituality is becoming more and more scarce in our time, we should not follow what we see other people doing, but instead continue to make God the major driving force in our lives so that we could be rewarded for our efforts in the end. But anyway, if you have enjoyed this video, learned anything, I would greatly appreciate if you hit those like and subscribe buttons down below, and also to hit that notification bell so you know when a new Growing with God video comes out. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next one.